And hello again, good people of Room 8. Last week, the physics class had a chance to run their mousetrap cars. And so we have the data that we picked up from Mr. Matkins on that. And so we're going to go ahead and use that and continue where we left off last week in creating charts and specifically column charts using Excel. And so the first step that you'll want to do is to go ahead and open the workbook that you started last week, or if you did not open a workbook last week or just want to start a new one, that'll be fine too. And so go ahead and do that. Start Excel, get a blank worksheet, and then we'll go ahead and get the data entered. Once you have Excel up and running, you're going to come to a window that looks like this. And so you can go ahead and create a blank worksheet. And if you want, you can zoom that in a little bit by pressing the Control key and rolling your mouse wheel on top of the mouse button. And then you'll want to start entering the data that I'm going to show you right now. And here we are. So let's go through and do just a quick overview of what you're going to be creating here. Now, it's assumed that most of you have had some experience with Excel. Most of you are seniors, about 3 of you are juniors in this class. And so some of these things may be new to you. Most of you probably know it, but if you don't, that's all right. As I come around the class, just ask for help, and it won't take very long to learn the little formatting or to remind you about how to do some particular formatting while using Excel. So it starts off with a name of this particular worksheet. We're taking a look at Mousetrap Cars for 2016. And then down here, starting at A4, we put the word line just to keep track of our line numbers here. So if we need to refer to something, it's just a nice way to reference our data table. And in fact, here I've made these a size 8. And you can do the same thing here because we're not going to be graphing those numbers. They're just reference points. So I'm going to change that to size 8. And then we've got these titles across the top here that have been centered. And so if you're not sure how to do that, then certainly ask. This particular formatting you might not be familiar with. This is called a merge and center, where we've taken 3 columns right here and combined them into one cell. And so that was a process of selecting those and then clicking the merge and center button. And then we put meters here to show that our distance is in meters. And then here's the names of some selected students and, of course, Mr. Thackeray with his cute car. So go ahead and get those names typed in. And then here is all of your data that you'll want to put in. And we did not make a mistake there on that blank. That is blank because Will did not do a third run with his car. So at this point, try to set the video off to the side and go ahead and get all of this data entered. And then come on back and we will move on with that. Now I can hear it already. Spelled Cameron's name wrong again. Cameron, let's get rid of that. Yes, did that on purpose just to see if anybody else besides Cameron would notice. So there we go. Now, once you have that, make sure you do a save if it's a brand new document for you or a workbook. So do the file, save as, Mousetrap Cars 2016. And once again, if you have any questions about how to format it to make it look like this, then please do so. Next up, we're going to make some copies. We have mouse 1. And so the way to make a copy of the worksheet is to simply click on it, right-click, and then select Move or Copy. And then several of the sheets pop up. And what you'll want to do is click on the one that we want to copy. And for you, it'll be mouse 1. And then click the Create a Copy box. Click OK. And there's the copy. And then you could go in and name that mouse 2. So go ahead and make 4 copies. I've got mouse 1, mouse 2, mouse 3, and mouse 4. And the reason we're doing that is if something happens and we make a mistake, it's always good to have a copy of your worksheet. The other reason is that we're going to practice with different formats of graphs, and so you can go ahead and create a graph, keep it within mouse 1, go to mouse 2, do a different version of it, go to 3 and 4, and so on and so forth, and practice some of the different formatting options, and then just to practice building a column graph. So we'll practice that 4 times. And so go ahead and make mouse 1, mouse 2, mouse 3, mouse 4, and then come on back to mouse 1, and we will continue once you have that completed. So before we start building the graph, let's take a look at a completed graph to get an idea of what you're trying to build here. So here we have Mousetrap Cars 2016. There's our title. We have 3 different runs for each student and the teacher. So we have a legend. Blue is run 1. In mine, orange is run 2, and then the gray is run 3. And so these columns are stacked right next to each other so we can see what occurred as each run was conducted. And there's Will with only 2 runs. And so that's the final look of the graph. Oh, and then we have the X title and a Y title. So that's what we need to practice doing for this first one. So we'll go back to mouse 1. Step number 1. Let's select just the data starting at location C5, Mr. Thackeray starting with his 7.6 meter run, and highlight those values. With the values highlighted, up to the main menu, click Insert. Come over to the Charts window, and the first option there, we want to insert a column chart. And we're going to make our first selection here. 2-dimensional column chart. And there is our basic chart. See if I can zoom out just a little bit, move it out of the way. I still want to be able to see my data at this point, and that's going to make your life a little bit easier so that we can get back in there. Try to set yours up so it looks something like that. So that we can see that our names are currently showing up here on the x-axis as 1 through 8. We need to change that so it corresponds with our students. So click, make that chart active. Right out here in this background space, right click and choose Select Data. So here is our horizontal x-axis, and then here's our series data. This corresponds to runs 1 through 3. These correspond to the names of our students. So we need to edit this. So click Edit. And we are prompted for the label range, the axis label range, so we can go ahead and select that range of cells that contains the student names. Click OK. And then those names are appearing now on our x-axis. Next up, we need to rename series 1, 2, and 3. We want those to be named Run 1, Run 2, and Run 3. And so we'll start with series 1. Select Edit. And it's waiting for the series name to be entered, so it's prompting us. And so we can just simply click on Run 1. Click OK. And there we see the change has been made. And do the same thing for series 2. Click and make that series active. Click Edit. Run 2. Click OK. And series 3. Edit. Run 3. Click OK. And then we'll click OK and get out of the data source window, and let's take a look and see how our graph's looking now. Alright, so here's our chart with all of the data entered. Meters on the Y, we've got our names, our legend. We can go in now and put a chart title. And we'll call this Mouse Cars 2016. Now notice that because we have our chart selected, the Chart Tools window has appeared. And so let's go ahead and click on Format. And we've got some shortcut tools over here. And we'll click the plus sign. And let's add some axis titles. So we'll click that options box, and then we get a text box appears that we can go ahead and type in. And let's call this Physics Students 2016. And what should we name our y-axis? Meters. Yes. For our distance. So our chart's starting to come together real nicely here. So once you have that done, make sure you save your workbook and have me come around and look at your chart. And then in the next video, we'll take a look at how we can format some of the different shapes and elements of this graph.